August! Yep, August, the beginning of autumn, the end of summer, and I've been very busy. I've only seen a few films this month. Basically, the Friday film night had got called off for the whole month. I've been really busy with work and also with this little thing called the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which popped up and actually took up a lot of my time because I spent some time at that. Basically, the films that I have seen, I'm just going to tell you about. So let's jump right into it. And first up this month, I saw the brand new Predator franchise movie, Prey. Now, this is a film that dropped on Disney Plus and didn't come out in cinemas, which is a bit bizarre, and I stuck it on because I've been a huge fan of the Predator franchise films since I was a kid. You see, back when I was a teenager, I got really into the Aliens movies and also into the film Predator, and I even read the comics and I watched the first movie, and then I actually saw the second movie, Predator 2, which I ended up watching to death because I had it on VHS and I really liked it because even though it's kind of weird and dated, it was kind of fun and had a lot of cool toys and like the weird alien monster hunting this guy around the city. And since then, yeah, the franchise has gone really downhill, especially with the more mediocre and messy film Predators, which was still quite fun, and then the absolute turd of a film that was The Predator, not to mention the Aliens vs Predator films, which let's just not even talk about those. But if you've ever seen them, the premise is really simple. There's this alien race of hunters who are basically like Klingons from Star Trek mixed with Spartan warriors, and they love to hunt dangerous prey as a pastime, and also as kind of a rite of passage. And periodically they like to come to Earth drawn by heat and conflict, and there they like to kill the most boss-ass warriors they can find to take home trophies and prove themselves to be awesome. But in Prey, we're actually rewinding the clock right back to the year 1715, where a young Comanche lassie decides that she wants to be a hunter for her tribe, and while she's trying to prove herself, her and her peeps wander into the midst of a predator's hunt. And from there on in, it's pretty predictable stuff, both in terms of the basic plot, which is full of loads of visual and script callbacks to the original movies, but also references to the first two Predator films, as well as being very much in the modern female girl boss action film kind of style that's pretty common these days, but not in a bad way. But also, this film's actually kind of just a lot of fun. I mean, the Predator in the film is actually kind of cool. It's a much more feral and less technologically adept one than those in previous films. It's also kind of brutish and sloppy and kind of careless at times. But also, the characters are kind of interesting. I mean, they're kind of thin, and by characters, I mean the people in the Comanche tribe. I'm not talking about the French trappers who show up to be literally evil white men and cannon fodder for the Predator and have no other real role in the film. But honestly, it's probably the best Predator film since the second one. It might even be on a par with that. It's really well shot, and it's kind of interesting to watch in the original Comanche dub as well, which you can do. And I'm happy to give this a solid 4 out of 5. It's a fun movie. I had a really good time watching it. At the opposite end of the spectrum was this Russian classic film, Stalker, which is a movie made by the legendary Russian filmmaker Tarkovsky. And it's based in a place called The Zone, which is like a fictional area in Russia where physics, time and other things just don't really work right because an alien meteor crashed there or something. I mean, it's deliberately vague, and people go in to find out about the legend of the room that grants wishes, led there by a stalker. And this is all based on a book called Roadside Picnic, which is actually a pretty interesting 70s Russian sci-fi, and it's a property that's actually been quite seminal and important in the sci-fi world. I mean, they actually tried to make a pilot for a TV adaptation of this a few years ago, and it was all about a guy who goes in on the secret smuggling out zany artifacts and his family and what goes on with that. But unfortunately, it didn't get made to full series, and all you can actually find of it online is the trailer, because, yep, you can't even find the pilot, which is kind of unfortunate, because it looked okay. But they also made a series of computer games based on Stalker, which are actually kind of good. I mean, they're kind of difficult and weird, and they're more based around Chernobyl, but it's definitely had its mark on the popular culture, especially in Russia, and to a lesser extent the rest of the world. But Stalker the film, on the other hand, is a really long, slow and deliberately paced film, pondering the nature of life and meaning, while showing these three guys who, for the most of the film, only really need to travel about 200 yards to get to this room, but they can't go in a straight line because they'll basically die, because the weird zone stuff will send them around in circles. And it's kind of a 4 out of 5 because this is a beautiful art house classic. I mean, it manages to keep itself interesting and suspenseful despite an awful lot of it just being these three guys mumbling in Russian and staring off camera. And it doesn't get a 5 because the ending kind of loses itself a little bit and the sound occasionally isn't great as all the voice and Foley work's been added in post, because obviously they didn't have any on production sound on the day. And the dubbing occasionally is a little bit off. But that aside, it's an absolutely amazing movie, really interesting, really bizarre, but as I said, it's an art house gem, and if you enjoy that kind of thing, maybe this is for you. Next up was a French movie called The Intouchables, or Untouchables in some places.
Here's how you get him. He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way.
Only, no, not the gangster one. But this is actually one that was remade recently in English as The Upside, which looks pretty bad in a really naff American comedy sort of way. But the original one is absolutely fantastic. It's this heartwarming story all about a rich quadriplegic guy who decides in a moment of curiosity to reject all the trained nurses and helpers that he's trying to hire in favour of this poor normal guy who just needs to show up to get a bit of paper signed to say that he attended the interview so he can get his benefits. Now, of course, this unusual approach and the lack of any false sympathy for him makes the pair of them actually get on really well. And it works brilliantly when they become fantastic friends, leading to a whole load of fun and honestly some of the biggest laughs I've had in watching a movie in ages. It's a 5 out of 5 feel-good movie based on a true story, so you know nothing stupid is going to happen, and it's unashamedly upbeat, and it's told really well while being an awful lot of fun. Honestly, check this out. This is a good movie, but steer clear of the American remake because it's kind of trash looking. And the last film I saw at home this month, in just before the lock as it were, was The Iron Giant. Yep, that one, the classic old cartoon movie that's been out for literally forever, that I just never actually happened to see as a kid or even as an adult right up until now. And it's decent. I mean, I'm not going to say it's amazing, but I certainly enjoyed it. I mean, the story of wee Hovarth and his single mum and the giant space robot they meet and the weird beatnik guy. I mean, it's all a little bit E.T. in a lot of ways, and very clearly this has also been an influence on a lot of stuff that came since, especially Lilo and Stitch, but then so is Invader Zim. Anyway, I mean, Lilo and Stitch is such a weird kids movie. Did you ever hear the theory that actually Nala is really Lilo's mum as well as her sister? Anyway, the 1950s Americana of Iron Giant works really well in the story, and I'm kind of surprised to find out that Vin Diesel was the robot's voice, but it makes sense when you consider that the lesson he ultimately learns is one that's all about family, 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 family. And yeah, so 3 out of 5. Because there is a bit of messiness to this script. There's a lot of massive plot holes that are kind of dumb, even for a kids' movie, but there are some really great complex themes and subtext that are going to go right over kids' heads. But still, this was really good fun. I completely understand why people who saw this when they were very young hold this in such high esteem, but for me, watching it as a grown-up, it was simply pretty decent. Now, because of me being busy this month, I didn't have a huge amount of time to see films at the cinema, but I did make an effort to see Jordan Peele's Nope. Now, Jordan Peele is a director you might remember from films like Us and his horror movie Get Out, which took kind of comedy horror turns to the black experience in America, but from different angles. And there's a little bit of that in the film Nope as well, which is a film where we follow OJ and his sister, who are horse wranglers for big Hollywood movies. Or at least they were when their dad ran the business, but tragically he died in a weird accident where it rained metal objects from the sky. And the two of them are just trying to get on with their work and their career and try and make something of the company when they realise that something weird is spooking the horses and making them behave strangely and occasionally disappear. And it might just be something in the sky. Now, this is a movie which clearly is modelling itself on Jaws, and it's also half, oh no, a weird thing is chomping horses and people movie, and half let's go hunt down the thing. But more than that, this is also a total love letter to filmmaking and to film crews. The trouble is, it's kind of dull. I mean, 2 out of 5 dull, and it's kind of long, and honestly the characters really aren't established very well. I mean, the film basically doesn't really bother establishing much more than about the characters than in the first 2 minutes, and they're not people you really like that much. In fact, the weirdest thing is there's a whole subplot in the movie about Glenn from The Walking Dead as this ex-sitcom child who's now grown up to have a rodeo, and there was a famous incident when a chimpanzee went mad and maimed the rest of the cast on the set, and he's literally in about 10 or 15 minutes of the entire movie and is kind of unimportant to the actual plot other than what his storyline ties into the rest of it. Yeah, as I said, he's not even in that much of the movie. I can't really recommend this. It's not Peele's best work. I would suggest you just watch Get Out again. It's a better film. Now, considering what I thought about Nope, I might get a little stick for what I thought about Beast, which is the Mad Lion movie with Idris Elba and Sharlto Copley. Now, going into this, I knew literally nothing about it, and it's actually surprisingly mediocre, or mid, as the kids say today. Basically, this is a film that starts out with some savannah holiday movie, but then it turns into Cujo, you know, the one about, like, you know, the mum and the son stuck in the car being attacked by a rabid dog, you know, before the film turns into, well, I mean, I don't know what, kind of a weird movie. It's a movie where the characters are kind of limp, with the script doing very little and the actors having to heavy lift this utterly out of the toilet, which they do occasionally. And when Charlton Copley's on screen as his poacher hunter character, things are actually really interesting. But he's only a side character in the story, and Idris Elba as his semi-alcoholic rubbish doctor dad, I mean, you know, Idris is always good, but the two obnoxious teenagers are just absolutely painful to watch. And yeah, it just makes the whole thing feel unrealistic in the situation, especially when they keep bringing up the dead bum at points when they're about to be attacked by a lion. You're like, hang on a minute, this is just ridiculous. So yeah, 3 out of 5, because, you know, it's a perfectly acceptable monster, horror, animal movie thing, and the CGI lions are actually pretty good. I mean, you know, some of the scenes are really quite tense, and I quite appreciated the use of long takes. I mean, there's some really long camera work here, where a whole take will just be a hugely long, sweeping Steadicam shot. Ultimately, though, not really one to write home about, but, you know, it's probably the best Mad Angry Lion film since The Ghost in the Darkness. And that was pretty good. So that was August. Short and sweet, and yeah, there wasn't actually that many things out at the cinema, so, you know, you can't blame me for only seeing a few things. But next month, I'm really hoping there'll be a lot more going on, because, to be honest, I've got a bit more free time, and there's a hell of a lot of stuff that's come out on Netflix, on other streaming channels. I even picked up a free 30-day subscription to Paramount Plus, so who knows, there might be a couple of movies on that. Anyway, you'll find out next month. So till next time, thanks for stopping by, because these have been my grumpy opinions.